Hey, listen, shh, come closer. Look, I've bought a new stapler. Because the old one broke. Hey, and I've bought a brand new portable speaker. Really nice. So, in this lesson, we're going to look at the present perfect used for a result in the present. Okay. So we use this to describe a past action that has a clear result in the present or some connection with the present, right? So my stapler, the past action, I bought a stapler. But I say, look, I have bought a stapler because I'm showing it to you now. The result is, look, I have a new stapler. The same with the speaker. I bought it. I have a new one now. Look, I have bought a new speaker. So we often use it when we say, look at something that you have bought or you have done, right? The form, subject plus have or has, and the past participle. I have bought. You can contract I've bought or she's bought, right? I just heard my wife has burnt the dinner. Oh dear. That means we have to go out for dinner. That's the result, right? She has burnt the dinner. She's burnt the dinner. She's burnt the dinner. Never mind. We can go somewhere. So let's have a look at part 3 questions. Now, this is a good tense to use in part 3 questions with a particular kind of question. And it's one that uses this tense, right? Is how has something changed in recent years? How has the news changed in recent years? Or how has education changed in recent years, right? A similar question with the same meaning is how is something today different from the past? So here, very often you're going to talk about the past and how that action is connected to today. What's the impact or the result connected to today? Let me give you a couple of examples and I think you'll see it, okay? How has the way we get news changed in recent years? Well, in the past, we used to read newspapers. D. Well, in the past, we used to read newspapers. But now technology has changed that. But now technology has changed that. So we tend to read the news on our mobile phones. So we tend to read the news on our mobile phones. I'll put it all together. In the past, we used to read newspapers, but now technology has changed that, so we tend to read the news on our mobile phones. That's it, right? Okay, you can see there the present perfect. Technology has changed that situation, right? Possible substitutes. Substitutes for tend to. So we tend to read the news on our phones, maybe typically. So we typically read the news on our phones. Like to. So we like to read the news on our phones. More often than not. That's a nice chunk. More often or often than not. More often than not. Think of it as a sound. More often than not. More often than not. So, more often than not, we read the news on our phones. Right? It's the same meaning, right? We tend to do it. Great. Now, next question. How are families today different from the past? In the past, families were larger. Dee-dee-dee, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. In the past, families were larger. Now this has changed. Dee-dee-dee-dee. Now this has changed. And families tend to be smaller nowadays. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. And families tend to be smaller nowadays. All together, you go first. Great. In the past, families were larger. Now this has changed and families tend to be smaller nowadays. Excellent. Good. Let's try another question. Do you think that films have changed since you were a child? Yeah, previously, films were much simpler. Dee 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 dee, dee 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 dee. Yeah, previously, films were much simpler. But now things have changed a lot. Dee dee, dee 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 dee. But now things have changed a lot. Today, many films use lots of special effects. Dee dee, dee dee dee, dee 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 dee. Today, many films use lots of special effects. Great. All together, you first. Fantastic. You're doing great. Well done. Yes, previously, films were much simpler, but now things have changed a lot. Today, many films use lots of special effects. Great. Special effects, right? We can maybe use some possible substitutes. Computer graphics. Today, many films use lots of computer graphics. Digital effects. Many films use lots of digital effects. 3D effects. Many films use lots of 3D effects. Great. Let's take the same question but a slightly different answer in the negative. So, do you think films have changed since you were a child? No, not really. Dee 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 dee. No, not really. I don't think they've changed much at all. Dee 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 dee. I don't think they've changed much at all. Yes, there are more special effects. Dee 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 dee. Yes, there are more special effects. But the storylines are pretty much the same. Dee 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 dee. But the storylines are pretty much the same. Great. Whole thing. You go first. Nice. Great. No, not really. I don't think they've changed much at all. Yes, there are more special effects, but the storylines are pretty much the same. Pretty much the same. Great. Okay, that's it. That brings us to our last question, to the end of this unit. Great.